After I removed my corneas, my childhood sweetheart panic. The day I got my license, I went to the hospital and removed my corneas. In my past life, my boyfriend's childhood friend Lila stole my car on the first day of school. She ran red lights, killed a pregnant woman and an old man, then fled. But my classmates blamed me. When the police came, I swore Lila was driving. She collapsed into Ethan's arms, fake tears in her eyes. Nora, why frame me? Then Ethan showed the dashcam footage, my face behind the wheel. Still lying, he sneered. The victim's family saw it. One stabbed me until everything went dark. Then I woke up, back to the day before it happened. Welcome to Harborview, everyone. Lila's voice, sweet and cloying, echoed through the classroom. Since I'm a local, I thought I'd play the good host and take you all to the mall tomorrow to pick up some souvenirs. My treat, a little welcome gift from me to you. The familiar words sent a tremor through my entire body. I was back. I had been reborn. The classroom erupted in praise. Wow, Lila, you're seriously the best. Harborview's little princess. Lila, there are so many of us. That's going to cost a fortune. She just laughed, a picture of effortless generosity. Don't worry about it. You've all come so far to be here. It's the least I can do. Suddenly, all eyes turned to me. Nora, the roster says you're from Harborview too, right? I nodded, my throat tight.
Yeah.
Welcome to our city. Lila's hand shot out, her fingers wrapping around my arm. Nora, my car won't fit everyone. You just got your license, didn't you? Could I please borrow your car? It was like being doused in ice water. I froze, the memory of her last life's request washing over me. That was how it started. She'd borrowed my car, driven like a maniac through the city, blown through 18 red lights, and ended 2 lives. Then, my entire class, my entire world, had turned on me, branding me a murderer. When the police came, I screamed my innocence, but Lila's crocodile tears in Ethan's arms were more convincing. He'd slapped me, produced the doctored dashcam footage, and sealed my fate. Before I could even process the betrayal, the victim's family had delivered their own brutal justice. The memory was a phantom pain, so sharp it made me shudder. Before I could react, my purse was snatched from my hands. Ethan, my boyfriend, was already digging through it. He pulled out my car keys and tossed them to Lila. Go ahead, Lila. Take it. The sight snapped me out of my trance. I lunged forward, snatching my bag and keys back. Sorry, I said, my voice cold and firm. I need my car tomorrow. You'll have to ask someone else. Ethan's face darkened instantly. What could you possibly need it for, Nora? Just admit you don't want to lend it to her. I met his glare without flinching. You're right.
I don't want to.
So what? Lila's eyes welled up, a perfect picture of wounded innocence. Nora, I don't understand why you hate me so much. I just wanted to do something nice for our new classmates. Why are you always targeting me? A bitter laugh almost escaped my lips. Refusing to lend her my property was now targeting her. My classmates, of course, took her side. Come on, Nora, we're all in this together. Don't be so cold. Yeah, Lila just wanted to borrow your car for a day. Why are you trying to hurt her feelings? She's never done anything to you. Then Ethan shoved me.
Hard.
Nora, can you drop the spoiled princess act for 1 second? It's the first day of school, and you're already bullying Lila. I stumbled backward, the back of my head cracking against the edge of a desk. A sharp, blinding pain exploded in my skull, and I sucked in a breath through my teeth. In my past life, his words would have been enough to make me question myself, to feel guilty.
But now?
All I felt was a pure, unadulterated hatred. I wanted to tear him limb from limb. I forced myself to my feet, ignoring the throbbing pain, and swung my hand across his face. The crack of the slap echoed in the suddenly silent room. You put your hands on me for her? Have you forgotten who pays for your tuition, Ethan?
Who pays for your life?
You ungrateful parasite. I stared him down, my voice shaking with rage. We're done. Go protect your precious little sister. The word breakup seemed to shock him. His face went pale. Nora, what are you talking about? Stop being dramatic. Lila is my sister, and you're supposed to be her future sister-in-law. It's only natural for you to look out for her. I was just trying to help you fit in with my family. A cruel smile twisted my lips. Do you really think I'm that stupid, Ethan?
We are
over. I don't need to fit into your family, and I damn well don't need to take care of whatever the hell she is to you. With that, I grabbed my bag and walked out, leaving him sputtering in my wake. His voice followed me down the hall, raw and furious. "You and your damn princess attitude. Who else would ever want you, Nora? All you know how to do is throw your dirty money around to humiliate people. You're arrogant, and you'll die alone." I couldn't help but laugh. He never felt humiliated when he was swiping the supplementary card I gave him, or when he was happily accepting gifts worth thousands of dollars. I pulled out my phone. First, I cut off the supplementary card. Then, I called a friend at the bank and asked her to print out every single transaction he'd ever made. He felt humiliated by my money?
Fine.
Then he could pay back every last cent of that humiliation. That night, a deep sense of unease settled over me. I drove home, parking my car securely in the underground garage. I let out a long breath of relief. There was no way Lila could get to it now. Just as I was getting ready for bed, the hospital called. "Miss Reed, we have the results of your eye exam." I'd forgotten. A few weeks ago, my vision had been blurry and my eyes had ached, so I'd gone for a checkup. The doctor's next words hit me like a physical blow. "Miss Reed, you have a severe corneal detachment and retinal damage. The corneas will need to be surgically removed." My body went rigid. Sensing my shock, the doctor quickly added, "We'll do everything we can to get you on the donor list, Miss Reed. But the surgery needs to happen soon. The longer you wait, the more severe the condition becomes, and the more difficult the procedure will be." After hanging up, I called my parents and told them everything. My mother, her voice tight with worry, promised me they would find a donor, that I shouldn't be afraid. I didn't sleep a wink that night. The next morning, as I was about to leave, I noticed it. The car I had driven to school yesterday was gone. A chilling premonition washed over me. My hands shaking, I dialed the hospital. "I've made my decision. Let's do the surgery today. I don't want to wait." My parents, alerted to the urgency, pulled strings and assembled a team of 5 top ophthalmologists to prepare for the procedure. 2 hours later, I was on the operating table. As the anesthetic began to flood my system, a strange calm settled over me. I glanced at the surgical camera mounted in the corner of the room, and a small, secret smile touched my lips. 5 hours later, I woke up to a world of absolute darkness. Panic, cold and sharp, pricked at my heart. I reached out a trembling hand, and it was immediately clasped by another. "Nora, sweetheart, how are you feeling?" It was my mother's voice. A wave of relief washed through me. "I'm okay, Mom. It's just strange, not being able to see." She pulled me into a hug. "It's going to be okay, baby. I've already put out feelers for a donor. It should be quick. The hospital said in 3 months, you can have the transplant and everything will be back to normal." I nodded. As she fed me, she asked, "Nora, why the sudden rush for the surgery?" I paused, then forced a light laugh. "I figured the sooner, the better. Less damage, a faster recovery." She accepted my answer. That evening, I told her I wanted some fresh air. The lead surgeon agreed, giving me an hour before I had to be back for a dressing change. A nurse wheeled me out to a small park next to the hospital. I listened to the sound of children laughing nearby, and it brought a genuine smile to my face. The nurse excused herself to use the restroom, promising to be right back. I nodded, content to wait. A few minutes later, the peaceful atmosphere was shattered by a cacophony of angry voices. "Nora? What are you doing here? It really is you. You're a fugitive. The police were at the university looking for you, and you're just sitting here out in the open." I frowned, the darkness around me feeling suddenly hostile. "I haven't broken any laws. Why would the police be looking for me?" Suddenly, a hand grabbed my arm, yanking me to my feet. "Nora, it's you. You need to come with me to the station and turn yourself in." I recognized Ethan's voice. I ripped my arm away from him. "Are you insane, Ethan? Why would I turn myself in?" Lila's voice cut in, dripping with phony concern. "Nora, please, don't make things worse for yourself. 3 people are dead. You need to take responsibility. If you confess, we'll all plead for a lighter sentence for you." I shoved her away blindly. "What the hell are you talking about? I didn't do anything." Then another hand grabbed the collar of my hospital gown. You're the one who ran my wife down yesterday, aren't you?" A man's voice roared, thick with grief. "You monster. Do you have any idea what you've done? She was pregnant. We were on our way to celebrate. You destroyed my family, and I'm going to make you pay." I was thrown to the ground, my body aching from the impact. I tried to explain, my voice cracking. "You have the wrong person. I've been in the hospital all day. My car was stolen. I reported it. The man hesitated, his eyes flicking to my patient gown. But Lila's voice, sharp and venomous, cut through the air. Nora, we all know your family is rich and powerful. You could easily bribe the hospital to fake an alibi. But these were people's lives. How can you just deny it? Ethan pointed an accusing finger at me. She's a monster. I can testify. I heard her say that once she got her license, she wanted to go joyriding downtown, run red lights for the thrill of it. She said her family's money could get her out of any trouble. I tried to talk her out of it, but she wouldn't listen. The crowd around us turned into a mob. Their murmurs of confusion became growls of fury. How can someone be so evil? She killed people and acts like it's nothing. You rich people think you can do whatever you want. You think our lives are worthless. You deserve to die. The grieving husband's hands closed around my throat. Because you're rich, you think you can just play God with our lives? Is that it? I want an eye for an eye. The wail of a siren cut through the chaos. Police. What's going on here? Let her go, an officer shouted. The man roared, his grip tightening for a second before he was pulled away. I just want justice for my wife and child. She destroyed my life, and she's just walking free. Sir, we understand, the officer said, his tone firm but sympathetic. And we promise you, we will get you justice. He let go. The next thing I felt was the cold, hard bite of handcuffs on my wrists. My voice was a hoarse whisper from the pressure on my throat. Officer, you've made a mistake. I've been in the hospital. I couldn't have been driving. The officer's voice was like ice. Nora Reed, do you have any idea that because you fled the scene and didn't call for help, the pregnant woman bled out? A life that could have been saved was lost. Where is your proof? I choked out. It wasn't me. He sighed, his disgust palpable. Miss Reed, the vehicle was found at your residence. Dashcam footage and multiple traffic cameras show you behind the wheel. We have a dozen eyewitnesses who all identify you. My mind went blank.
How?
I wasn't there. How could it be me? If you cooperate now, you might have a chance at a reduced sentence. Suddenly, a new voice cut in. What is all this? Someone in the crowd yelled, this girl killed 3 people in a hit and run. The cops are finally arresting her. In the ensuing scuffle, someone tugged at me, and the gauze bandage wrapped around my eyes was ripped away.
There was a collective gasp.
Then someone screamed, "Oh my God, she doesn't have any eyes." Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave, shattering the mob's certainty. Where there should have been eyes, there was only bandaged emptiness, stark and undeniable. The officer who had been holding my arm froze, his grip slackening. For a moment, no one dared speak. The grieving husband who had nearly crushed my throat stumbled back, his face blanching as though he, too, had just seen a ghost. She wasn't lying, she really doesn't have eyes, someone whispered. Another voice, shaky but loud enough to carry, broke the silence. If she's blind, how could she have been driving? The crowd began to murmur, uncertainty creeping into their anger. I straightened, my voice hoarse but steady. That's what I've been trying to tell you. I was in surgery for 5 hours. I woke up in a hospital bed, unable to see a thing. And yet you claim I ran red lights and killed 3 people? How could I drive without eyes? The officer cleared his throat, forcing his professional mask back into place. Miss Reed, we have dashcam footage. The vehicle is registered under your name. Witnesses place you at the scene. His tone faltered, for just a second. The evidence is substantial. Then your evidence is fake, I snapped. Or someone has gone to great lengths to make me look guilty. But even as I spoke, I felt the weight of disbelief pressing in around me. Some of the onlookers shifted uncomfortably, unwilling to let go of their anger. She's rich, a woman muttered bitterly. People like her can buy fake medical records. Maybe she had her eyes removed just to escape punishment. The words caught like wildfire. Yeah, she could have paid the doctors off. Blinding herself just to play the victim? That's sick. My hands clenched into fists, nails biting into my palms. No matter what I said, the world twisted it against me. The officer's voice hardened again. You will have the opportunity to defend yourself in court. Until then, you remain under arrest. The cold bite of the cuffs returned to my wrists. Still, I lifted my chin, refusing to bow my head in shame.
Fine.
Then I'll prove to you all that I wasn't behind the wheel. But remember this. When the truth comes out, Every single one of you will have to live with the fact that you tried to bury an innocent person alive. For a moment, the crowd faltered. No one could look me directly in the face. Not because of the bandages, but because of the emptiness. The hollow gaze of someone stripped of her sight, yet still unbroken. The cell was cold, the walls echoing with the distant clatter of footsteps. Darkness pressed against me, but even without my sight, I could feel every whisper, every glance, every lingering doubt that hung in the air. I replayed the dashcam footage in my mind. The curve of the steering wheel, the angle of the mirrors, the hands on the wheel, they all matched mine. Too perfectly. But they couldn't be mine. Not after the surgery. Not when my eyes had been removed mere hours ago. A chill crawled down my spine. Someone had worn my face. Someone had become me long enough to commit murder and vanish without a trace. The thought consumed me. I turned it over again and again. The careful timing of my surgery, the speed with which dashcam footage appeared in police hands, the perfect eyewitness accounts. It wasn't coincidence. It was intentional. Who would do this? I whispered into the dark. Then a flicker of memory hit, a casual comment I'd overheard at the hospital. The nurse had mentioned a donor with unusual genetics, someone whose corneas had been requested specifically, urgently. At the time, it seemed routine. Now, it looked like a thread to pull, a lead pointing to something far more sinister. Someone had tampered with my identity, my body, my face, maybe even the timing of my surgery, to frame me. And if they had the skill to manipulate my life so completely, I couldn't trust anyone. A knock at the cell door jolted me from my thoughts. A man in plain clothes leaned in, his voice low. "Miss Reed, I believe you're being set up. I can't explain how yet, but the evidence doesn't add up. You need to start thinking about who might have the ability and the motive." I swallowed hard. "You mean someone can make me look like me and do whatever they want?" He nodded grimly.
Exactly.
And they did it very well. Too well. For the first time, fear mixed with a spark of anger that made my heart race. Whoever had done this wasn't just trying to ruin me. They were playing a dangerous game, and I had just woken up in the middle of it. I clenched my fists. Then it's time I learned their rules. The morning sun barely pierced the heavy gray clouds as I was escorted from the station to a waiting car. My bandaged eyes took in nothing, but I could feel the weight of the world pressing in, the tension in the air thick enough to choke on. When we arrived at the family estate, the scene that greeted us was worse than I could have imagined. Protesters had gathered in the driveway, their chants and signs echoing against the marble walls. Justice for the victims. Rich heiress murderer. Blind cheater, let her pay. Cameras flashed incessantly, reporters shouting questions into phones and microphones. Headlines were already circulating online, branding me as a spoiled heiress who had mutilated herself to avoid punishment. Social media feeds overflowed with speculation, outrage, and viral memes mocking my blindness. My parents stood at the grand entrance, their faces pale and tight. My father's usual composure was fractured, his jaw set so rigid it seemed he might crack. My mother's hands trembled as she tried to shield me from the throng. "Mom, Dad," I whispered, letting the words hang in the air. My mother's eyes welled, but she looked away. "Nora, we'll do everything we can, but the truth, people, they might not believe it." My father's voice was low, almost breaking. "We'll hire the best lawyers. We'll fight this. But the evidence, that's overwhelming. Even you what?" I cut in sharply. "Are you starting to doubt me now? After everything I've told you?" They flinched, as if my voice had struck them physically. My mother's lips quivered. "We're just scared. We don't want to lose you, but the world, it's already turned against you." I clenched my fists, trying to steady the fury and fear that warred inside me. They were my parents, but they were human, and humans falter when the storm grows too fierce. Outside, the crowd's chants grew louder, the media pressing closer, their lenses aimed at the estate as if to capture my every faltering breath. I realized then that the battlefield was not just the police or the courts, it was the world itself, and my family's influence only went so far. I straightened my back and lifted my head. Then let them watch. Let the world see what happens when someone tries to destroy me with lies. If you waver, I'll fight this alone. My father's eyes softened for just a moment, pride warring with fear. My mother swallowed, nodding, tears spilling down her cheeks. They would protect me, but their faith was fragile, and that fragility would only make the coming storm all the more dangerous. The cell door clanged shut behind me, echoing in the narrow corridor like a death knell. Darkness wrapped around me, thick and absolute, swallowing the faint sounds of the outside world. Without my sight, every creak of the floorboards, every whispered step, every distant shout felt magnified, pressing into my skull with a weight I couldn't escape. I sat on the cold, hard bench, my hands brushing against the unforgiving metal bars. The air smelled of damp concrete and disinfectant, a sterile prison smell that did nothing to calm my nerves. I had been here for only a few minutes, yet it already felt like a lifetime. Footsteps approached, and 2 guards appeared at the cell door. One of them muttered to the other, barely above a whisper. "Orders from above. Make sure she stays locked down. No favors this time." Yeah, they want her destroyed. All the way. The words struck me like a physical blow. Someone powerful, someone with influence that reached into the justice system, was pulling the strings. This wasn't just a frame. It was a targeted attack, carefully planned, and I was the intended victim. I pressed my palms to my face, feeling the emptiness where my eyes used to be, the blindness that now made me both vulnerable and painfully aware of my dependence on others. But the fear that threatened to take over was quickly replaced by a flicker of determination. If they wanted me destroyed, they had chosen the wrong girl. I might be blind, confined, and alone in this cell, but I was not powerless. I would find a way to hear what they could not say aloud. I would notice what they thought I could not. I would turn their orders against them. From the shadows of my cell, I strained to listen to every sound, the faint jangle of keys, the murmur of distant voices, the careful tread of boots on concrete. Every detail was a clue, every whispered phrase a potential weapon. And in the suffocating silence of my prison, a plan began to take shape. The morning light did not reach my cell, but a shadow slipped through the doorway, carrying an air of quiet purpose. "Miss Reed," a voice whispered, low and cautious. I froze, straining to place it. "Yes," I answered, my tone careful, measured. A man stepped closer. His shoes made no noise on the cold floor, and yet his presence felt deliberate, precise. "I'm Detective Harrow." I don't believe this case is what it seems." I blinked into darkness that wasn't mine, hearing only the timbre of his words. "Go on," I said, wary but intrigued. He lowered his voice even further. "The dashcam footage, the timestamps don't add up. The angle of the mirrors in the video isn't consistent with your car's interior. And there are gaps. There are moments where it's like someone cut and spliced the tape." A shiver ran down my spine. "Someone wanted me to look guilty," I murmured. "They made it perfect, but perfect isn't real." Harrow nodded, crouching beside my bench. "I've been following the case quietly. I'm convinced that someone with influence orchestrated everything. The footage, the witnesses, the timing of your surgery. Whoever did this, they're good. Too good. But even the best forgers make mistakes." I swallowed, my fists tightening. "Then what do we do?" He hesitated, then spoke with determination. "We gather proof. The inconsistencies I've found are just the beginning. I can't risk going public yet, but if we work together, we can start dismantling the story that's been built around you. We can expose the lie before it kills you." For the first time since being thrown into this nightmare, I felt a flicker of hope. My blindness was no longer just a vulnerability, it was a weapon. I could listen, detect, and uncover details others overlooked, guided by someone who believed in the truth. I extended a hand, uncertain but firm. "Then let's start. Show me everything you've found, and we'll take this apart piece by piece." Detective Harrow's grip was steady, and in that moment, I realized that even in the deepest shadows, allies could emerge. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, I felt like I had a chance. The courtroom smelled of polished wood, stale coffee, and tension. I sat blindfolded with my bandages still tightly wrapped, my hands folded on my lap, heart hammering. The murmur of the crowd was constant, but every word, every shuffle of papers, every cough carried meaning I had learned to read in the dark. Then he entered. Ethan. My former boyfriend, my supposed protector, the man I once trusted more than anyone. He approached the witness stand with a tragic air, slumping just enough to look wounded, but his eyes, so piercing, held no regret. Only calculation. "Do you recognize the defendant?" the prosecutor asked. Ethan's voice, soft but sharp, cut through the room. "Yes, I do. That's Nora Reed. We were together. I loved her once." A pause. The kind that made the audience lean forward. "But," he continued, lowering his voice as though sharing a painful secret with the world. She became reckless, arrogant. She refused help, even when I tried to guide her. I warned her about borrowing her car, about the dangers, but she ignored me.
And now 3 people are dead.
My stomach twisted. He wasn't just spinning lies. He was weaving a story in which he was the tragic hero, a man who tried to save me from myself. I swallowed hard, forcing my fingers to unclench. "No one will believe you," I whispered under my breath. "Not if I can help it." The prosecutor asked more questions, each one a blade cutting into the image of the Nora everyone thought they knew. Ethan answered calmly, convincingly, his lies precise and rehearsed. It wasn't just betrayal, it was collusion. His testimony didn't just harm me, it reinforced the false narrative, made my allies hesitate, and lent legitimacy to the frame-up. And in that moment I realized, this went deeper than I thought. Ethan's betrayal was not only personal, it was strategic, carefully aligned with Lila's schemes. The thought ignited a cold fury inside me. I had been blind, literally and figuratively, but now I could see the full scope. This was no ordinary betrayal of the heart. This was war, and I was the target. When the court adjourned for a recess, whispers followed me out. My parents' faces were pale, haunted, but I ignored them, focusing on one truth. Ethan's lies could not survive the light I was determined to shine. And I would make sure they didn't. The hospital hallway smelled faintly of antiseptic, a scent that once comforted me, now felt suffocating. I sat in the waiting room, bandages still wrapped tightly over my eyes, listening to the soft hum of activity around me. The nurse, bustling with paperwork, leaned in to whisper to a colleague just a few feet away. They pulled strings for her corneas. Got them fast, faster than usual. It's almost unnatural. The donor is high priority, and everything was expedited. I froze. My fingers tightened on the armrests of my chair. Unnatural, I whispered to myself. Could someone be orchestrating this? Why would my cornea transplant happen with such urgency, unless someone wanted to control when I could see again, or worse, what I would see? The thought was chilling. Someone had already framed me, manipulated witnesses, and spun lies through the courts. What if my eyes, the very organs that would return my sight, were also part of the plan? I forced myself to stay calm, to focus. Panic would only cloud judgment. I imagined the possibilities. A donor with connections to my enemies, someone chosen deliberately to influence the surgery, or even to implant more than just sight, to control my perception in some way. A doctor approached, cheerful and professional, unaware of my suspicions. "Miss Reed, everything is on schedule. The surgery is ready as soon as you are. You're going to have perfect vision soon." I forced a polite nod. "Thank you, but I'll need to know more about the donor, the details of the procedure." The doctor hesitated, glancing around. "Everything is confidential, as always. But rest assured, everything is standard protocol." Standard protocol? My instincts screamed otherwise. Someone was guiding every step of this process, from the timing of my surgery to the selection of my donor. And if they could manipulate that, what else could they control? I closed my eyes, literally and figuratively, and let my mind race through possibilities. Whoever orchestrated this frame-up wasn't just trying to ruin my life. They wanted complete control. And when I finally regained my sight, I wouldn't just see again. I would see them. Detective Harrow's voice came low through the phone, reverberating against the walls of my darkened room. "Nora, I found something." Raw footage from the traffic camera on the day of the accident. It wasn't included in the official report. My pulse quickened. Raw footage? The unedited kind.
Yes.
"I think you need to see this for yourself, or as much as you can without your sight. I've gone through it frame by frame." He met me at the hospital that evening, carrying a small tablet. I ran my fingers over the smooth surface, recognizing the outline of the screen. Harrow tapped it, bringing up the first frame. "There," he said, voice tense. "Focus on her gait, the way she holds her hands. Look at the timing of her movements." I listened. Footsteps, the soft hum of a car engine, the squeak of tires. And then the girl appeared. She looked like me. Every detail of her face mirrored my own. The curve of her jaw, the shape of her nose, even the tilt of her head. But as I concentrated, subtle differences emerged. Her posture was slightly off, too rigid. Her gestures were exaggerated, almost rehearsed. The way she adjusted her hair, it was not mine. "Someone engineered a double," I whispered, my voice tight. They made her look exactly like me, but she isn't me. Look at her hands, clumsy, wrong. The steps aren't mine. Harrow nodded grimly. And whoever did this had resources. Access to facial molds, makeup, even possibly prosthetics or digital effects. This isn't just revenge. This is a full-scale manipulation of reality. I pressed my fingers to the tablet, feeling every contour of the girl's movements in my mind. My pulse turned cold with a mixture of fear and fury. Someone had taken my face, my body, and used it as a weapon. They want the world to see me dead, humiliated, and guilty, I said. And they almost succeeded. Harrow's eyes hardened. Not if we can prove it. This footage, it's the first real piece of evidence that cracks their story. We can trace the edits, the origin of the double, and expose them for what they are. I straightened in my chair, blind but unbroken. The pieces were falling into place. The double, the falsified evidence, the manipulation of my surgery, it was all connected. And when I regained my sight, the world that had tried to bury me in lies would finally see the truth. And I would make sure they paid for every second of torment they had caused. The confrontation was inevitable. I had followed the trail of lies, the threads of deception, and now they all led to her, Lila. I found her in the family estate's grand hall, pacing like a caged predator. The reporters and protesters outside had been momentarily silenced, and for once, the world felt like it belonged to me. You really thought you could outsmart me, Nora? She hissed, voice sharp, dangerous. The sweet, saccharine tone she always wore was gone. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with rage. Do you have any idea how long I've waited for this? For a life that wasn't mine, but should have been. I felt the pieces snap into place, the truth I had been chasing for months finally solidifying. You, I said, my voice cold and unwavering. You engineered everything. The accident, the double, even Ethan's testimony. You wanted my life, my wealth, my place in everything that mattered. Her laugh was hollow, jagged. Why settle for anything less? I was always the prettier one, the more charming one. Everyone adored me. But you had everything I wanted. Money, attention, love. And I couldn't stand it. I listened, letting her words hang in the air like poison.
So you framed me.
Ruined my reputation. Tried to make me powerless. And now, you think that by revealing your true self, I'll back down. Her eyes flashed with fury. I don't care anymore. I've played the game long enough. Sweet, innocent, perfect little princess Nora? That was never enough. I had to be her to be better than her. And for a moment, I almost succeeded. The mask had fallen. The girl everyone admired, the angel of Harborview, had vanished. In her place stood something far darker, far more dangerous. A woman consumed by obsession, envy, and the desire to replace another person entirely. I took a slow, deliberate step forward. It won't work, Lila. Not this time. You might have stolen my face, my car, my reputation, but you won't steal my life. Not again. She froze, a flicker of fear crossing her expression. For the first time, I saw cracks in her composure. The game she had played so long was beginning to unravel. And I would be the one to tear it apart completely. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled with a mixture of curiosity, outrage, and morbid fascination. Cameras lined the walls, capturing my blindfolded face for a world eager to witness either my downfall or my vindication. The flashing lights, the murmurs, the pointed stares, they all came together to form a spectacle I had no choice but to endure. From the moment I was led to the stand, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on me. My bandaged eyes made me appear vulnerable, pitiable, and monstrous all at once. The media had already painted their narrative, a spoiled heiress who mutilated herself to escape justice, blind to the consequences of her actions. But I was far from powerless. Detective Harrow had prepared meticulously, feeding me information about every discrepancy, every manipulated frame, every false witness statement. I had memorized the inconsistencies, the small cracks in the facade that could bring the entire case crashing down. The prosecutor rose, voice dripping with accusation. Miss Reed, you were behind the wheel. You caused the deaths of 3 people. How do you plead? I inhaled, letting the silence stretch. Not guilty, I said, my voice steady and unwavering. Gasps echoed through the room, but I pressed on. I was not driving that car. Someone made me look guilty. Someone created a double, an imposter, engineered to ruin me. Harrow stood beside me, projecting raw footage frame by frame. The courtroom screen lit up with the unedited traffic cam video, highlighting subtle inconsistencies. The gait, the gestures, the small details that proved the driver was not me. The room erupted in whispers. Skepticism collided with awe. Even the jury shifted, leaning forward, trying to absorb the evidence they had never seen before. I continued, voice growing firmer with each word. I have been framed. Every witness, every piece of evidence, was manipulated. This was orchestrated by someone with influence and resources, someone who wanted to see me destroyed. The prosecutor faltered, glancing nervously at the footage. For the first time, doubt began to creep into their tone. The media, ever hungry for spectacle, scribbled furiously in notebooks, their narrative cracking under the weight of truth. Outside the courtroom, the world watched with bated breath. Inside, I felt the first real surge of power since this nightmare began. Blind, underestimated, and vilified, I had turned the tables. And this was only the beginning. The courtroom buzzed with tension, a fragile quiet hanging over every face. I could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes upon me. Judges, jurors, lawyers, reporters. But my bandaged eyes made the stare irrelevant. They could see only my helplessness, my supposed vulnerability. But they did not see the fire beneath my skin, the storm coiling in my chest. I rose slowly from the stand, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make my voice cut through it like steel. I will not merely clear my name, I said, each word deliberate, resonant. I will make every person who betrayed me pay. I will burn every lie, every scheme, every deceit that was used to destroy my life. The air grew heavier, the murmurs of the courtroom dying down. Even the prosecutor paused, pen hovering over notes, unsure how to react. Detective Harrow leaned close, whispering, "They won't know what hit them, Nora." I smiled faintly beneath the bandages, savoring the promise of retribution. I have been framed. I have been mocked, hunted, and humiliated. But I have also seen the cracks, the betrayals, the hidden hands manipulating every step. And now I let my voice drop, almost to a growl. The hunters become the hunted. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum in my chest. I could feel the jurors shifting, the audience leaning forward, the world teetering on the edge of the revelation that would follow. I am blind, I said, letting the words hang like a warning. But I see everything that has been done in the shadows. And I will ensure that no one who harmed me walks away unscathed. The room was silent. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. My oath was not empty. It was a promise forged in pain, betrayal, and survival. When I returned to my seat, I no longer felt weak or fragile. I felt unstoppable. The blood oath had been sworn. And the reckoning had only just begun. The hospital room was quiet, save for the faint hum of machines and the distant murmur of nurses outside. I lay on the bed, hands trembling, waiting for the final moment. The bandages came off slowly, carefully, and a strange anticipation prickled my skin. When I opened my new eyes, the world hit me with a rush of light and color, but it wasn't just sight. It was more. Layers beneath layers, truths interwoven with deception, illusions hiding in plain sight. I blinked once, twice, trying to adjust, but what I saw only sharpened. Faces I knew were no longer just expressions. They were riddles. Lies hung around people like shadows, whispers of deceit visible to me alone. Hidden motives, unspoken fears, manipulations, all were suddenly tangible, vivid. Detective Harrow, standing at the foot of the bed, appeared the same, yet the faint shimmer around him told me he carried secrets even he hadn't revealed. Lila, lurking in the corner, seemed to radiate desperation and envy, her mask of charm cracking in the light of my perception. Even Ethan, his betrayal glowed like a wound in the air around him. I realized the donor had been no ordinary person. Whoever they were, their eyes, now mine, carried a strange, almost supernatural clarity. A gift, or perhaps a curse. I rose from the bed, testing my vision. Every detail was crisp, hyperreal. But more than that, I could see the threads that bound people to their lies, the invisible patterns that led back to the conspirators who had framed me. Every manipulation, every hidden connection, every subtle betrayal was now exposed. A cold, sharp smile tugged at my lips. The world had tried to blind me, first by deception, then by surgery. Now, the world would be exposed to me. And nothing, not Lila, not Ethan, not anyone who had dared to touch my life, would escape the truth I now carried in my eyes. Ethan had always believed he could manipulate reality the way he manipulated me. Soft words, charm, a few well-timed gestures, and the world would bend to his will. But now, every thread of his carefully constructed life lay exposed. I began with subtle strikes. Anonymous tips to the press highlighted his connections to Lila, the inconsistencies in his testimony, and the deliberate negligence that had endangered lives. Social media, once full of admiration for his tragic hero act, turned into a storm of criticism. His allies hesitated, conversations froze when I walked into rooms, and whispers followed him like shadows. Next came the financial unraveling. Every offshore account, every misused investment, every secret transfer I had quietly traced with Detective Harrow was now being audited. Banks froze his assets, creditors circled like vultures, and lawsuits multiplied daily. He tried to resist, scrambling to cover tracks, but each desperate move only exposed more of his deceit. The final confrontation was private, just the two of us in a quiet office overlooking the city. He leaned back, trying to smile, but his hands shook. "Nora, what have you done?" I met his gaze with cold precision. "I've done what you refused to do. Face the truth. You lied, you betrayed, you conspired, and now it's your turn to feel powerless." His confident posture crumbled, and I watched as a man who had once made me feel helpless realized what real helplessness looked like. Every betrayal he had orchestrated was reflected back on him, magnified, undeniable. By the time I left the office, Ethan was no longer my ex-boyfriend, nor my former ally. He was a cautionary tale, a man undone by his own treachery, and I, blind no longer, had orchestrated his ruin with surgical precision. Lila's empire of lies had always seemed untouchable, a perfect combination of charm, manipulation, and carefully hidden cruelty. But now, with the truth illuminated by my restored sight and my allies' unwavering diligence, her facade began to crack. It started with the evidence. Dashcam footage, tampered medical records, witness statements, all pointed back to her orchestration of my downfall. I presented every detail in court, leaving no room for ambiguity. Each lie she had spun, every manipulative gesture, every whispered deceit was laid bare. Outside the courtroom, the media painted her not as Harborview's darling, but as a calculating, dangerous manipulator. Interviews with former acquaintances revealed the extent of her obsession with replacing me, claiming my wealth, my relationships, and even my identity. The city she had once charmed now recoiled from her. In private confrontations, she tried to plead, tried to charm, tried to bargain, each attempt only exposing the depth of her desperation. Her hands trembled, her voice faltered, and the sweet princess, act that had fooled everyone for so long, was gone. Finally, the verdict came. Lila's guilt was undeniable. She had murdered, manipulated, and stolen identities, and now, the law, the public, and her own conscience would hold her accountable. As she was led away, head bowed but defiant, I felt no triumph, only a cold satisfaction. Justice had been served, and the world had finally seen her true face. I stood on the balcony of my family estate, the wind lifting my hair and sunlight spilling across my restored eyes. Months of betrayal, manipulation, and near destruction had culminated in this moment, but I was no longer the same person who had once feared for every step. Every lie, every frame of evidence, every betrayal had been turned over, analyzed, and used as a tool. My enemies had been unmasked, their schemes dismantled, and the truth now lay plain for all to see. But victory was more than revenge. It was transformation. I had a choice: to reclaim my old life, to step back into the world that had tried to destroy me, or to forge something entirely new. I chose the latter. I would build a life on my terms, a life where I was no one's pawn, no one's victim. The past would inform me, but it would not chain me. Looking out over the city, I saw possibilities instead of limitations. The horizon stretched endlessly before me, a world of untold opportunities and unseen truths, waiting for me to navigate them with the clarity, strength, and vision I now possessed. Nora Reed was no longer just a name. She was a force. Reborn in sight, spirit, and resolve, I had survived the shadows, and now, the world would learn that some darkness could be confronted and conquered, but never again ignored.